Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I know it has been, I can't believe it's only Tuesday. It's been a very long couple of days, and we have 3 days ahead of us, but I really hope that you'll enjoy this session today. We want you guys to walk out of here today feeling like you have a grasp of the kinds of things that you need to think about, the strategies that you should think about as you move your legacy applications to Azure. What are you trying to accomplish with the move that you'll be making? I'm sure that your business has goals that it wants to accomplish, and it's your job to help make that happen. Are they trying to increase top-line growth, penetrate new markets, pass a security audit, maybe get new customers or gain market share? All those things are things that we need to be thinking about. They're all great questions, and they're looking to IT to help you achieve them. A move to the cloud can help you achieve those goals. But right now, you've got maybe only the pain points of your infrastructure. Your applications might cost you a lot of money to maintain. You don't even know which ones are the most critical ROI, the ones you absolutely should move, the ones you maybe should leave behind. You struggle to quantify the benefits and the interdependencies, and maybe there's a new version that you have to upgrade. There's so many things to think about in this space. So we want to help you think through the steps that you might take as you start your journey. We'll take you through the steps that we take with our clients and help you demonstrate what the strategy might be for you and something you could adhere to. So Kaushik and I are here to tell you a few stories about the ways that we do this at EY, and we'll hope that that will illuminate for you what you might need to be thinking about and get working. So without further ado, I'm Amy Dolzine. I'm a Microsoft MVP, but I also work for EY, and I actually work in our knowledge department. I help the people who work within EY share what they know with everyone else. And I also work here with Kaushik, who is excited to be here to share with you our strategy. So take it away, Kaushik. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Is the mic working okay? Okay, so Amy and I are really, really excited to be here with you today. And I'm Cloud Migration Advisor for large enterprise customers at Ernst & Young, ex-Microsoft Cloud Solutions Architect, or CSA as they are better known. With that background, let me quickly share with you what today's session is about and what it is not. And hopefully we'll shed some light on some of the questions you have, help you with some of the answers, and some of the answers that we have sought over the years and we have gained some understanding on. So Azure means many different things to many different people. But at the end of the day, it is a platform on which you want to run your applications. If you are a startup company, you can start creating these applications directly from scratch on Azure. But not all of us have the luxury to do that. But we want to focus more on what you want to do if you are an enterprise. If you have existing applications that are running on premises and you have a legacy of, say, tens, hundreds, or thousands of applications that you want to move from on-premises to cloud, particularly to Azure. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it can and will make total sense to bypass an Uber rationalization, app portfolio rationalization strategy, and migrate a set of low-hanging fruits to Azure to learn and check things out, to move the needle in the short term. And all of us face the pressures of proving to people who control the wallets that this has real business value, right? And sometimes the going for it without launching a costly exercise helps. However, the larger scale application portfolio rationalization exercise is a bridge that you and us will have to cross sooner or later. Without a plan, ad hoc cloud migrations, without proper analysis and the target state picture, it can result in a non-streamlined future state where cost or performance or security are not optimized in spite of moving to Azure. So teams will, for example, not have an organization-wide governance strategy. Each team will spin up their own environments on Azure with little reusability. And Azure will end up looking like your on-premises, only now you are on a pay-per-use model, so it may actually be worse. So governance must be prioritized for a medium to large-scale Azure migration, and governance needs revisiting your operating model, planning, and change management. So that's what today's session is about, to give the macro picture of what you do at the beginning when you are faced with such a daunting task. In other words, we will talk about how to rationalize your application portfolio, classify applications into buckets, aligning the IT strategy with business strategy, and defining the future. Little bit about us. Ernst & Young Advisory Digital Cloud practice helps our customers disrupt and modernize. Microsoft Azure is a very, very powerful tool in making digital transformation happen. And at EY, we want our customers to utilize the Swiss Army knife of the hybrid cloud space in the best possible way. As Amy said at the beginning, we also want to share some stories, which brings me to a few amazing real-life stories that hopefully you will enjoy as much as I did going through them or learning about them after the fact. So how does a retail consumer goods company transform itself from being a product company to a lifestyle company? The answer is by harnessing actionable insights about its customer habits, preferences, and choices, and then modifying its applications to adapt to changes in these parameters. The application suite before this Azurification happened was unable to even generate customer usage data properly, let alone store and process massive amounts of data securely and quickly. We worked closely with this customer to modernize their application suite, data processing platform, and analytics pipeline, with remarkable results impacting their top line as well as their bottom line. That's a story I'm really proud of. Now, on the right-hand side, I have the story of EY helping a multinational bank modernize its application suite to enable productivity. How do you enable hyper-productivity and at the same time securely check all the boxes in compliance, regulation, and risk audit categories? How does a bank enable remote workers? Are the data being exchanged during these remote sessions safe in transit? What about the personal cell phones under the bring your own device policies that employees and contractors are bringing in to access the core network, store potentially sensitive data? How can a bank safely enable omni-channel experience for its end users? We explored these questions and more while transforming this banking giant to a digitally enabled think tank for innovation while rationalizing their application suite. Now, the story that has moved me the most personally is where we helped a government agency support and help more kids and families in need of aid and communities' help. Before they contacted Ernst & Young, this agency had failed multiple audits trying to keep information about these kids and families safe. Their application suite was old and backdated. Instead of trying to plug security holes one by one, which would take them a lot of time, thereby continuing to expose these kids' data to identity and privacy thieves, Ernst & Young proposed a holistic end-to-end solution to revitalize capacity and security using Microsoft Azure. Some of the older applications were retired, some were re-architected using Azure PaaS offerings, and some of the newer applications that they had written before contacting us were retained but refactored or refronted to be more efficient and optimized on Azure. As a result, we drastically improved the time it takes to process an application for aid, thereby enabling our customers to scale and serve more kids, reduce errors and reprocessing time. All security audits are passing now, and most importantly, the sensitive PII data that they were entrusted with by families in need are safe. So we have automated more than 80% of their workflow. Families can now have the peace of mind that government will not be an easy target to steal their data. That's a fantastic story, where it all came about from they contacting us about doing an application portfolio rationalization. So it's the kind of tip of the iceberg when moving the needle to have better customer engagement comes into practice, into play. Having said that, let us talk a little bit about the why. I suspect most of you in the audience already know a lot about why you need to do an application portfolio rationalization exercise. You know your pain points. Let me share a high-level collection of the pain points that we have seen with our customers and the ones that we have helped alleviate. Simply put, your applications cost you a lot of money. It may be operations, hardware, bandwidth, outages, change management like upgrading or fixing patches, and a number of things. Worse, you sometimes do not even know which ones are the worst. You have no way to quantify benefits and costs because you have no transparency into your application suite's ROI. You spend reactively when things are broken or about to break, so you throw more resources at it with little planning and visibility into what an alternate state could be. Thirdly, portions of your application suite are complex with interdependencies. So releasing new versions take time, reducing time to market, agility, and productivity. I remember a bank who I worked with closely, and they said that my competitions are rolling out features like, banking using a mobile app, which has to scale tremendously because there will be so many hundreds of thousands of users using the app at the same time. But I can't. I'm falling behind the curve, and this is exactly what this point is all about, so that you can, with confidence, predict what you need to do to your application suite to make such a future-looking thing happen. Fourthly, you want to innovate. Good segue. But you neither have enough bandwidth nor the launching pad, as your applications are not suitable for modern platforms. You can't ask your people to go spend more time on R&D because they are stuck in a reactive mode, trying to fight fires. Last but not the least, your applications are not aligned to business functions. Your sales representatives have to run 20 reports to see exactly what they need. Someone has to manually make changes to the data to support business functions like vendor management. And patching these systems one at a time makes them look like Frankenstein, like full of Band-Aids and seemingly impossible to get rid of. However, in spite of all these problems, there is good news. And the good news is it does not need to be this way. It does not have to be this way. A little bit about the EY Microsoft partnership. What we said in the last slide, we recognize the problems. We said it doesn't have to be that way. It is easy to say that. What is not easy, however, in our experience, is addressing all of these pain points in such a way that you continue to be safe. How do you continue to check all regulatory and compliance boxes during the intermediate phases of this transformation? No one wants to solve these problems and invite the auditor's wrath. I work with the financial sector now, primarily. I have worked with healthcare and other regulated domains extensively. And I know that such a fundamental change comes with challenges related to risk and compliance. This is exactly where Ernst & Young's partnership with Microsoft helps. So EY has perfected the cloud risk management framework from so many years of experience in risk, compliance, and cybersecurity. Even before the public or the hybrid cloud days, UI has helped large global customers deal with cybersecurity risk and compliance. Everything that we have learned and documented from engaging with these customers as risk consultants, helping them pass audits, helping them comply with HIPAA and PCI DSS, have come to bear into our cloud risk framework. So when UI performs your application portfolio rationalization for Azure, the emphasis never shifts from risk, be it data security, application security, infrastructure security, or DDoS. UI's deep experience combined with state-of-the-art tools provided by Microsoft Azure makes sure that the target state and every intermediate state between now and then is compliant and safe. Now let us kind of zoom out a little bit before we zoom in. So this pyramid shows where, in the scheme of things, does application portfolio rationalization or modernization exercise reside in the bigger picture of Azure adoption strategy. As we all would agree, cloud is just one tool within the business strategy landscape. Very, very powerful tool. But we also have things like mergers and acquisitions, trade and finance, employee policies, and so many other levers to be successful as a business. But still, the discussion about digital transformation must start with business strategy. What are we trying to do? What are the business objectives? I think Amy touched upon this a few minutes back. Is it to increase top line by X%? Reduce bottom line by Y%? Is it to increase customer satisfaction? Penetrate new markets? Expand? Are you trying to pass security audits? A lot of technology-driven initiatives die out because of lack of business alignment. It is always recommended that you start at the top of the pyramid. You don't know how frustrating it is to have a lot of discussions, plan a perfect future, and then somebody at the top asking, why are you doing this again? So that's where you need to start. Then, once we have prioritized these objectives, we define the future state operating and governance model. In other words, define roles, responsibilities, and team structures that can support the operating model we need to simultaneously disrupt existing processes, drive value, and improve customer experience while reducing cost to serve. Why should we focus on end-to-end journeys, and which ones will deliver the most value? How can we use design thinking to reinvent user experience for our most significant journeys? What capabilities do we want to offer, and what business architecture can help us achieve that, and then sustain that, and then grow that? How can we support an agile and customer-centric culture, starting from the developers to the CEO of the company? Those questions are answered in this second stage before we perform, which is the third step in the process and the subject of the rest of this discussion. We perform a thorough application portfolio analysis to understand the current state, create a roadmap for migrations and cloud-native development, one that supports the said business objectives and operating models. Lastly, once we are on Azure and our IT engines are humming more or less smoothly, we continue to innovate and manage these workloads in Azure, setting ourselves more ambitious goals as the art of the possible has now changed, right? We are no longer constrained with hardware that we need to manage. It is just the foundation. So Azure is not the pinnacle of what your business can achieve. It is just the foundation, the concrete you pour into the slab underground so that you can build a skyscraper on top of it. That may be the last step on this pyramid, but that is the first step that you take into your future. Next, let us zoom in. In the last slide, the third step was application portfolio rationalization. So how do we recommend doing that? Well, we basically recommend you take 4 steps. First, we discover. We find out how deep the rabbit holes are in the current landscape and how these holes are interconnected. Then we dispose. That is, we classify discovered applications into buckets. We'll talk about that in a minute. Thirdly, we apply business strategy on these buckets and come up with a roadmap. Then, as we kickstart the actual migration, we also plan for continuous automated optimization, where applications are self-optimized, self-healing. They are capable of staying optimized in terms of cost, performance, and security as future workloads get added because of the processes that we have baked in while planning for this future. These next 4 slides I have is just one-to-one mapping. One slide for each one of the 4 steps we discussed in the last slide. They are deeper dives into the individual phases. Now, each one of you will have your own different sets of applications, characteristics, problems, and business objectives. These 4 steps are usually customized for our Azure customers to fit their needs. Now, we would be very happy to engage with you offline and discuss your specific needs. I believe our contact information is towards the end of the deck. So, what exactly do you do during the discovery phase? Essentially, you are defining characteristics about the current state. You are trying to find out application dependency mapping, business function mapping, user stories, use cases these applications are used for, business criticality, volume, scale of usage, functional, non-functional attributes like infrastructure and network resource usage, peak number of users, etc. You are also looking at usage of third-party libraries, packages, COTS products, open source frameworks, etc. You need the right set of tools for doing this. If UI is helping you, we will use proprietary accelerators and tools. We also recommend partnering with leading vendors in this space, like Mover or CloudAmize. We have used them before, they're really good. As well as getting the most out of the native Azure tools, like Azure Migrate. Now, I have to admit that it is limiting in some ways, but it is constantly evolving. And it is the most cost-effective way of using these tools. Instead of buying a costly license, you can use an offering that Azure has, a pay-per-use basis. Now, I'm going to take a moment here and discuss the importance of a well-populated CMDB, or configuration management database. This is coming from doing a lot of these exercises. A properly populated CMDB is super helpful in the discovery phase if it has high-quality data. Most of the time, the data that our customers provide us has quality issues, or they don't go too far back. The best practice that you can follow, if you're looking at doing such an application portfolio rationalization exercise few months or quarters, year down the line, is to make sure that you have a CMDB that captures configuration elements on all your applications, infrastructure, and network components. There are some fantastic change management tools out there, and even if it needs some customization, some effort from your org, going through the pains to set up an automated configuration management system will ensure that you will have rich and accurate data on your landscape when it is time to move some of these workloads to Azure.
Do you need to advance the clicking? Fill in the boxes?
Yeah, I forgot to advance the clicker, but you get the idea. So I'll repeat. Data quality is a huge issue, and I have been to a lot of customers who expect magic to happen, but they cannot provide us enough information about their existing applications. So the developers have left. No one knows what the documentation is. And even if there is something, nobody reads them. And half of the metrics are missing. They can't tell us why they have so many servers, each with 1 or 2 applications. Is it because there is risk of not having a redundancy, or is it because they use too much resources on that server? There is no data. So I think one of the biggest takeaways that I had personally is to advise my customers that the quality of return you'll get in investing in a strategic partner like EY or anyone else is proportional to the quality of data that you can provide them. So that's discovery. Now, during disposition, our target is to come up with buckets of applications either being refronted or re-architected or rehosted, retired, replaced, or interoperated by new components while retained in place. The methodology you use should be exhaustive in its application of business and technology attributes. This is a significant phase where risk and compliance plays a major role, and so does total cost of ownership considerations, future state vision, short and long-term objectives, etc. Let me give you an example. A very common question that we have faced, and I'm more than sure that most of you have faced if you have done some thinking on this. Should I move a certain database to Azure PaaS, or should I continue to run my Cassandra or MySQL or SQL Server on Azure IaaS? Which means I'll run them on VMs. Or should I leave the data on premises and use Azure just to scale my compute in phase 1 and connect them by express route, and then in phase 2, I'll bring my data over because bringing data is just too complex. It will take too much time, and my data center lease will be up in October. I'll need to write a hardware refresh check of $25 million next summer. I don't have the time to deal with the complexity of bringing the data. So good news is Azure has a very, very robust hybrid architecture to support such use cases, but that doesn't mean that you have to settle for that. I mean, keeping compute and data in two different places is complex, and it can result in unintended consequences. So in this example, moving the database into Azure using IaaS would be rehosting. Using PaaS would be re-architecting. Keeping it where it would be is interoperation. Maybe this particular database is just a duplicate view of data you have elsewhere, a remnant of poor design many years ago. So getting rid of the database and replacing it with the other one would be replacement, whereas getting rid of the entire application that uses this data would be retirement. Building a custom cache layer using Azure Redis to make this data readily available to applications on Azure would be refronting, an option where you leave the origin database on premises, but still make it available with low latency to cloud-native apps. Which one of these options is the best one for you? This profiling and analysis is done as part of this stage, and it is done for each and every application in scope. The catch is the depth to which you go for each application and balance that out with the amount of time you have allocated for this exercise, which is proportional to the amount of budget you have. So communicating such aspects upfront is key to the success of this phase. Now that we have done that, we are getting more and more advanced, right? You have a disposed list of applications, and that is your wish list. You need to figure out how exactly to get there. Now, there are potentially, 10s, 20s intermediate transition states. Each one of these will need its own operating model. Trust me. Every few weeks, you will find a new transition state where application A has moved to the cloud, but application B is still on premises, and application C is now a hybrid. This will create additional steps and workarounds to get business done. These intermediate steps will change fast. So retraining your personnel will be a challenge. There will be errors and much catching up to do for people who are used to a traditional stack of applications and a set way of doing things, or maybe on vacation to Hawaii for the weekend. In the rationalization strategy phase, which is this phase we're talking about, you take these intermediate operating models into account. In fact, the goal should be to pay close attention in defining the intermediate transition states clearly, reducing their number as much as you can, documenting them up front, and as you go, with appropriate fallback plans for business processes. This is very, very critical. And if you jump right in the cloud migration without proper importance given to such considerations up front, your migration project might go into chaos. In this phase, you use certain frameworks to either successfully justify your decision to move these workloads from a cost perspective, or you demonstrate that the cost of not innovating fast enough, which includes opportunity cost, competition, investments, and quantify that indirect incentive and cost. You need to clearly define the ROI for modernization, and that usually involves trying to quantify these things. You need to quantify productivity loss and gain, developer satisfaction and attrition, organizational change management impact, culture evolution. These are very qualitative aspects. And how do you exactly quantify them? Well, that has been our bread and butter last several years. And we have developed models which are specific to particular industries and use cases and the maturity level of our customers, which then plugged in gives a total TCO analysis picture. Because at the end of the day, trying to come up with a total cost of ownership analysis for cloud migration solely based on the tools that Azure has on their website, like A size machine costs this much and B size costs that much, is very, very inadequate. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. But you really need to deal with the more challenging ones. So using this data, you update the more simplistic roadmap that you had created after the disposition step, and that's the output of this phase. In short, you need a 360-degree view of your territory, new taxonomy, target metrics that demonstrate alignment with strategy, and a framework to measure them when you actually execute on the roadmap. In other words, this is the phase for the grown-ups. I mean, I have seen a lot of people talk about cloud migration, and they kind of stop after the disposition phase. This is where it becomes real. The rubber meets the road. Here for today's discussion on the bigger picture, we will go straight to optimization of your hybrid workload on Azure post-migration phase 1. But you must be thinking, wait, how exactly do you execute on the migration roadmap? Well, you secure funds and then assemble teams, which may be a good mix of employees and contractors. This is where your strategy partner will bring in proven SI vendors who specialize in Microsoft Azure transformations. And you can benefit from these proven partnerships and expertise. You can choose to hire. I have seen many of my customers do that very successfully, but then I've seen many fail. And there are various factors involved in that decision, which is out of scope for today's discussion. Remember, once you are on Azure, you need to constantly monitor your Azure usages so that you can continue to optimize on cost, performance, and security as you add new cloud-native workloads, run proof of concepts, prototypes, new ideas. You may need access brokers for compliance and introduce more and more hybrid workloads to stay compliant. Security access brokers is very hot right now, and they have actually opened up a new, very hotly pursued consideration for regulated industries who are scared of exposing PII, PHI data on the cloud. But the idea that there is a dedicated instance of somebody looking after each and every traffic that goes out and comes in is very appealing. And that's where our CASB friends, Sky High, has made a difference. So Microsoft Azure has unique guardrails to make this happen seamlessly. And this is where your cloud center of excellence will come into play. Your strategy partner's goal should be to make you independent. I have seen consulting companies who want to get in there and just stay there for decades, right? They don't want to leave. But the hallmark of true consulting is to find out a way to hand you over the keys of your own kingdom. In other words, make you self-sustained. In the Azure world, that would be to help you build your own cloud center of excellence, which will then be your steward in navigating your technology landscape on Azure. So those are some of the considerations you want to talk through with your strategy partner at the beginning, right? Because it is difficult to imagine the end when you have a whole ocean to cross, but you might be in for a rude surprise if you chose the wrong partner on these areas. How do you go on time?
8 minutes.
Perfect. So let me wrap ourselves up by discussing 6 condensed points, lessons that we have learned and passed along, best practices during Azure application portfolio rationalization exercise, and Azure migration roadmap planning. Now, these are high level, but in our experience, super important. First and foremost, DevOps. You simply cannot ignore the importance of building a robust end-to-end CI/CD pipeline. An automated way to manage environments and implementing infrastructure as code while migrating to Azure is the best way to ensure streamlined innovation and agility down the line. The lesson learned, therefore, in a nugget is this. Please do not consider CI/CD as a separate project from Azure migration. Bake them in together, even if it takes extra time. The extra time it will take is totally worth it. If you have your applications in the cloud, but your DevOps teams are not following cloud deployment best practices or not automating infrastructure provisioning on the cloud, the benefit you will eventually get from Azure will be limited, and you will not be happy with the return on investments you made on the cloud migration. Second, let us not rush that total cost of ownership analysis and approval. We should not make it completely or even primarily engineering or technology driven. Instead, let us spend some time up front to complete a thorough business case, present and align our leaders. Many cloud transformation projects halt midway because of lack of clarity on savings and investment. Cloud and Azure are still primarily technical concepts. It is your responsibility to bridge the gap between a techie mind and the business before undertaking a big project. Third, let us not treat security, regulations, and compliance as a separate project. It's very tempting to do so. Just like DevOps, let us bake it in. As we go application by application, or LOB by LOB, our analysis during discovery, disposition, strategy phases must consider risk and compliance at every stage. Let's not put that off for later. It is harder to do it the right way because of the mix of skill sets needed. Imagine this, a bunch of architects grouped together in your hallway, very happy whiteboarding a design of how this application look into the cloud. but ask them to work with someone from the security team and risk and compliance team to come up with the same design, risk approved, right from the beginning, and things start slowing down. And you say, I don't want to do that. Why don't you send that email out and as an asynchronous process get that approved? It could be a right step to do, but the best practice is not to forget about it until the last minute. Fourthly, let us resist the temptation to always go with lift and shift. Using Azure as IaaS only is like using that smartphone you have in your pockets just to make phone calls. If you just make phone calls, then you could, why did you buy the smartphone if you don't browse the App Store? I mean, this also means that you be proactive with years and months left for that data center release to be up. Because if you're not proactive, if all of a sudden you wake up and say, ooh, next Wednesday, I have to write the renewal lease, you do not have enough time. Heck, you do not have enough time for even lift and shift if you did that. Admittedly, an IaaS migration usually takes less time than one where you are re-architecting some applications to use PaaS. But you need to ask yourself, does the time savings in the short term set you back by years in the long term? Fifth, once you are on Azure, things can still go wrong. The optimize phase that we discussed earlier plays a big role. Cloud Center of Excellence needs to be nurtured and empowered so that they can act as the Azure cops. So, propelled by the adrenaline of cloud migration, do not put that Cloud Center of Excellence out of your mind until the very last month of your contract with your strategic partner who is making the migration happen. Lastly, but not least, culture and organization changes, change management, and operating model should be front and center of your Azure adoption plan. Now, it may seem trivial at first. You may be thinking, we will hire a few Azure architects and they will continue to report to so-and-so. Our product group will need a few trainings. Our sales folks will need a few more because they have to talk and convince people, right? If that is your org change management plan before you dive into Azure adoption, you will be in for a shock. So give organizational change management its due consideration up front. I think that was it. It was truly a pleasure speaking to you today. Please reach out with questions, comments. Would love to connect offline. Thank you for the opportunity. I think that's our contact handles. I'll probably open the stage up for Q&A right now.
We'll be happy to take your questions. We can repeat them so you don't need to walk up to the microphone. The question was, name one of the easiest applications to move to the cloud, and what's one of the most difficult to move to the cloud?
So, great question. Thank you for asking that. It depends on a lot of things. If you are heavily reliant on third-party libraries that you don't really have the source code for, right? You're out of touch with the original manufacturer. I've seen these kind of applications pose a lot of challenge when moving to the cloud because you don't know whether it will work, and you are not able to get a commitment from them whether there will be a cloud-friendly roadmap. And easier ones are where you have written them, own them, the developer is still around, and it is usually boils down to knowledge management when in terms of easy and difficult. Now, if your question is technical in nature, right? If you're saying what kinds of applications are easy to move and difficult to move from a technical standpoint, well, I've seen web applications which are extremely chatty, poorly designed. They sending back HTTP responses instead of using things like Ajax or something like that, they send the whole body back and forth. Doesn't really matter on a non-metered connection, but where egress is costing you for every bit and byte. That's a poor and difficult application to migrate to the cloud because you will have to re-architect all of that. Does that kind of give you a sense? Thank you.
Do you want to repeat the question?
Yes, for the
The
benefit.
question was around knowledge management and how do you make sure that as you're going through this process, the steps that we illustrated, what are the tools and techniques you would use to manage the knowledge base, the change management around that? Okay.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I kind of tried to bake that into the Cloud Center of Excellence because those are the folks that will be in charge of that knowledge going forward. So not entirely relying on contractors and people who will not be there after the migration is done, but injecting some employees who will eventually be contributing to the Cloud Center of Excellence and the body of knowledge. Of course, yeah, that's a very good strategy, and that is why some of the contractors supplying firms, they allow such a transition to take place. That adds value to the employer. Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the question. I think we have time for one more, or?
We are over time, but we're happy to take your questions.
Yes, please. I think the next speaker is waiting outside.
So please come up afterwards or reach out to us at this contact information. We'll be happy to help you. Thank you so much for the opportunity today.
Thank you.